Hi, this is Christy Marks, creator of Gem and the Holograms, and you're listening to a truly outrageous podcast with Mike, Aimee, and Nicole. It's ShowTime Synergy.
What's the name of this show again?
I gave up dog food commercials for this.
Hello and welcome to ShowTime Synergy, the Gem Review podcast here on the GeekCast Radio Network. I am Em, and joining me are my Misfit girls, Aimee, hello.
Woohoo!
And Nicole, hello.
Aloha!
In this episode, we'll be giving you our thoughts on the next 3 episodes from Gem and the Holograms Season 2. So yay, the 13th episode. I thought there was going to be, of the podcast anyway, I thought there was going to be, is one thing, we're 13 episodes into the podcast, and I thought I was going to have a lot more negative things to say about some of these, and I thought my ratings were going to be, like, really low, and sadly they're not. Not sadly, but I'm surprised that they're not.
They're not. They can't all be trips to China.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not all of them have Rio in it, so,
Yeah,
that
like I
vastly
said,
improves everything.
if they don't have Rio in it, it automatically gets a point up.
All right, so we're going to kick it off with Roxy Rumbles after this.
Woohoo!
All right, Roxy Rumbles. The air date was October 20th, 1987. After the Misfits get humiliated on public television due to Roxy's inability to read, Roxy quits the Misfits and wins the lottery and goes home to Philadelphia to show off her new lavish lifestyle to her old friends. Meanwhile, Gem and the Holograms are in Philadelphia on tour to promote literacy. What no one knows is Roxy is illiterate. Roxy, with the help of her high school friends, the Red Aces, decides to throw a bigger party than the Holograms due to a lack of free merchandise. Promised by Roxy, a riot ensues and causing extensive damage. Roxy is quickly overwhelmed by the situation, but Gem assists her. The Red Aces decide to learn to read. Roxy's remaining winnings are confiscated by the IRS as she was unable to read a correspondence sent by them. Bonnie gives Roxy a book that can help her to learn to read. Roxy, touched by Bonnie's newfound kindness towards her, accepts the book just before Eric Raymond and the Misfits come and convince Roxy to rejoin the Misfits, which is what Roxy agrees to do. In the end, Roxy secretly teaches herself to read thanks to the book Bonnie gave her. The featured songs: I'm Gonna Change by Roxy, Gimme Gimme Gimme, The Misfits, and Open a Book by Gem and the Holograms.
Recycled songs.
Gimme Gimme Gimme, yes.
Open a Book is too, because they had previous episode
that's right.
where they...
That's right.
So,
From when the girls went on their adventures.
They had their little...
Scavenger hunt.
Scavenger hunt, that's what I was trying to say. Yes, thank you.
Yeah. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Let's get this out of the way right now. Roxy just happens to find a winning lottery ticket. Really?
Yeah.
Serious?
Hey.
That no. I know it can happen, but I'm really not sure about that at all. It just doesn't seem.
That's her good luck.
That's the.
I guess
it was a little convenient that she won $1 million, especially since she can't even read. But the one thing that the little blurb that you read does not say is that the way that Raymond and the Misfits get her back is that she's under contract. And that's the biggest problem is through this whole episode is that all of her issues come from the fact that she can't read any of the contracts that she signs. So technically speaking, she gets in over her head pretty quick because of that. What I didn't get, I mean, and this is stuff that, of course, we'll bring out in our hologram and our Misfit moments, is that how, I mean, this supposedly happened so quickly. I mean, yeah, when you have a lot of money, you can make anything happen pretty quick. But, yeah, the fact that they were promising, like, lots of free stuff, and I'm like, how did they do that overnight? Because there would have had to be advertising for that.
It's the whole timing. I've said this before. The timing of Jem and the Holograms. It's kind of like Transformers in size. You just gotta go with it, I guess. You know?
Yeah,
it's gonna happen. You know?
They've got a time machine. Somehow they're able to pull this off.
Yeah,
and there must be an internet. You know, this is supposedly supposed to be the 80s.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, this isn't a perfect episode by far, but yeah.
We find out her real name.
Yeah.
Roxanne Pellegrini. From Philadelphia.
Yep.
But see, another thing I don't get, and I've said this before, is how come the Misfits and Jem, they don't have money? They're supposed to be the biggest rock bands in the world, and they don't have money. I don't get that. Is Eric really?
Well,
he's taking a big cut.
Technically, Roxy has $1 million, and that doesn't last long. She burns through it in a couple days.
Yeah, that was my other thing I wanted to talk about here in the plot. Let's talk about this million. Money goes fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
at least for the Misfits, it does.
No, not even for the most responsible people.
Oh, that's true. Windfall. I mean, I used to watch plenty of Oprah shows that talked about people that got $1 million or lots of money, and within a windfall, they spend it all really fast and turn broke again.
Right, but I'm not even talking about people who win the lottery. I'm talking about just every, going to work, getting a paycheck, or for me, I'm disabled, so I'm on disability. That money only stretches so far.
True.
I get paid the first of every month, and by the third of every month, I have close to anywhere between $30 and $70 left for the month after the rent, the utilities, the cable, the internet, all that. I mean, it's not just with lottery winners. Yes, I know that's what we're talking about with Roxy, and again, I just wish this would have, and I'll say this again later, I wish they would have structured this episode a little differently as far as how the events played out.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing, I thought I'd been under the impression that when you get into a situation where you actually win money like that, you don't get all of it all at once. You get it in chunks.
Well, you could you could actually choose. I actually had a relative
that
won the lottery.
There you go.
Okay, so
real lottery experience.
Yeah, she won the lottery. It wasn't like the Powerball. I think she won like 50,000.
Yeah, a couple $1,000.
Yeah.
I guess.
So you could actually have it paid out in one big chunk, and the IRS takes more in taxes if you get the one big chunk, or you can get paid out like yearly or monthly or even weekly, and you get less taxes taken out. But the thing is, you risk if anything happens to you, the money stops. You cannot give it to a beneficiary. Yeah. So that's why a lot of people take the big chunk so they can have the whole chunk, and the IRS takes more
A lot.
Of that chunk.
Yeah, a lot.
They take like 52% if you take the big chunk.
And
they take more than half.
Because they said about in the show it was like 50%.
Mm-hmm.
So she spent half of it, and then the IRS comes in and takes the rest of it. I was like,
so
we realized
we realized the true villain is the government.
Government did it.
Yep.
Government did it.
Yep.
So that's how that works, people.
Aimee, any thoughts on the plot?
I'm really glad that, Stormer had her episode. Now we get Roxy's. And then I woke up this morning thinking about this going, you know what? Why does it happen the same way? I'm like, you know what? Because pizzazz is just that infuriating that anyone would leave just because it just grates on everybody. So eventually, she pushes everybody away because she's just so infuriating. So why not Roxy? Why not?
I kind of like that they're taking an issue with illiteracy too, because I know back in the day that was one of the big things that was advertised in a lot of PSA announcements and stuff was about reading and stuff. So,
and the thing is, it's so easy to learn, and I like the fact that they kind of hinge off that, because at the very end she's kind of teaching herself to read, and she's of course very, very simplistic, but she's doing it, so it's like, the hardest part I think is just the teasing, which she's a tough girl. She
see, I went to college with one of my friends from high school, a classmate from high school, and I realized not until we got to college he couldn't read. He made his way all the way through high school without learning to read, and so it's just like, I've kind of put myself in that situation back in the day. It's just like, wow, he knew simple words, but like he couldn't read a textbook.
Oh man!
And I'm just like, how did you do this? He's like, I just convinced people to do my work for me. That's kind of like what Roxy did. She had other people telling her, oh, this is what the contract says, or this is what this says.
They were actually high school dropouts.
Yeah. So again, this is one of those episodes that kind of hits a little close to home. So,
wow.
So
my kids right now are learning to read, so I'm like, hey, I'm always amazed at the stuff that they're able to read, especially when it's like really, really complicated. It's like, I didn't think that you could read that. They did it. Like, oh, that's awesome. So I give them lots of validation.
Absolutely. I mean, I was one of those kids that I thought for the longest time that I was going to be dyslexic.
Oh, goodness,
because I wasn't, but I always had a hard time with reading stuff backwards. I know we are all old here, but
thanks,
you said the word. I can't believe it. Oh, we can't do this anymore, man.
I know we are all.
You broke the podcast. Said the word.
Please. Something way before this episode should have broken this podcast.
No, this is a deal breaker. I mean it. I'm leaving.
Sure you are. Right. I know we are all old here, so I know we are all old enough to remember this.
Older.
Yeah.
More mature.
Anybody remember Mr. DB from school? Where the teacher would do the D and then the B. At my school in elementary school, to help us go through reading and going through learning how to figure out the letters and everything else, the teacher had something called Mr. DB, where it would be a D and a B next to each other to try to figure out the sides of which letter is which is, sometimes, usually now that I'm 35 and a half-ish, usually now it's... I said ish, and I said myself. It's not like I said you were 37.
But yeah, just ballpark it. Come on, man.
I said ish.
Ish. Off by 20 years, give or take, right?
Right. now that I'm 35-ish, it's one of those things where I'll wake up and I'll read something and I'll completely read the wrong, like my mind will say the wrong thing in my, like, just taking things out of context or not reading something properly, like as soon as I wake up or right before I'm, ready to pass out. But yeah, no, illiteracy, even today, illiteracy is a huge issue. It's not one that people usually put in the forefront, sadly.
Not as much as they used to, it seems. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
I was always very I was a very slow reader, and so for me, watching this episode, I could totally feel the whole frustration of Roxy, and she's like, ah. And, seeing even sometimes my kids, oh, that's too big a word, I can't do it, and I have to break it down. But yeah, it's just like, reading is important. I'm glad that they gave that issue to Roxy, just because it's kind of, it's a good character moment for her, but it also, especially during the time, the kids that are usually watching the show at this point, they're at that age where I think they can easily get frustrated with reading, especially, they're around other peers that read quicker and faster and better than they are. They feel the pressure of, well, I'm not that fast, so I'm going to hide, the fact that I'm not that great. Mm-hmm. That was me, because I was not a very fast reader. I'm better at it now, of course, because I've had quite a few years to practice.
That, and you podcast all kinds of comics,
oh,
so I'm,
yes. Yes. So, but yeah.
Any other thoughts on the plot, ladies?
I think we covered it pretty well.
Yeah. That's good.
All right.
Let's get down to Rumble.
Are you ready to rumble?
I need to go find that. All right. All right. It is time to rumble with the hologram moments after this. It is time for the hologram moments for Roxy Rumbles. I am surprised the girl didn't hit the guy who said, check out that... She said, check out that car. He said, check out that girl. I'm really surprised. I don't know if it was her sister or his girlfriend. I'm really surprised she didn't hit him. Did we notice Prowl in this episode? Prowl and Swoop is in this episode.
What? Are you talking about the voice actors?
Michael Bell is the voice of Link.
Okay.
I was going to say, I didn't see any flipping tables.
I'm like... Wait, no, there was at the very end.
Yeah.
There was some table flipping.
I like seeing where Roxy came from, but I just wish the story would have been structured differently. Like, I wish she would have had, like... I don't know, I think it's great that Bonnie went to her and said, hey, why don't you, here you go, why don't you learn to read? But I kind of wish that Roxy would have shown a little bit more vulnerability towards Jem and had Jem and Bonnie help her together somehow. I don't know. I like the story overall, but there are just way too many issues I have with this one. I like seeing...
Do you think it would have been better like as a two-parter?
No, it's not that. I just wish that, like, there's a point in the episode where, they're talking of, like, there's a point where Roxy's like, okay, where is everybody? And then she turns a corner and sees the gem set up, and what are they doing here? They're here to ruin me. They ruined my homecoming. And like, I understand it's hard because we all have problems. I have problems. Everybody has problems. I understand it's hard to admit to problems, and we'll kind of get to that in the next episode in this podcast. But it's one of those things where I wish she would have said, okay, well, for me to understand and to better my own life, I need to learn how to do this now. Instead of at the end of the episode, and then, it just ends on Jetta making fun of her, and then her going and teaching her. I just wish it was structured differently is all.
See, I thought it was a really good just because of the fact that you get... Roxy has always got this hard exterior, and like ever since Jetta has kind of come into the show, Roxy and Jetta are like always at it. They're just like rivals. So to see, I mean, Roxy's not going to change until she has a reason to. Why should she? Because everything's working out for her now. The fact that she, gets frustrated with Pizzazz and says, I'm not going to take this anymore. I'm out of here. And then the only reason why it's stuck is because she won that lottery ticket. I think that she would have come back just because Pizzazz is right. Who else does she have around her?
That's true.
So, like, the way that they set it up, I thought it was all right. I don't know. The more I look at it, it's like, I just don't think Roxy's the type of person that's going to change without an exterior motivation. And
she was humiliated on live TV.
Yeah. That's
what
true.
I'm saying. Like, she was humiliated on live TV, and it's one of those things where because of that humiliation, and I think, honestly, if they didn't have the whole lottery thing come into play with it, I think really that's where it bugs me, honestly. She got humiliated on live TV. If they would have written it to the point of she knew about the gem in the hall, because they know about the campaign for illiteracy.
Yeah.
So it's not like she doesn't know about it. She should want to better herself because she got humiliated on live TV and couldn't read the prompts. Let's face it, folks. You can't exactly have Roxy turn to Pizzazz or Jetta for any kind of Stormer. See, that's really what would have been cool if she had turned to Stormer and said, "Hey, look, I have this problem. Is there any way you can help me, or can we go get myself some help, or whatever else?" Because Stormer, out of all of them, as we've seen, is the most compassionate.
Yeah. But we would have had a vastly different episode if we had done that. I think if the motivation was to get Roxy to leave the Misfits so she could go have a moment or a little adventure so we could find out who she was. She's from Philadelphia. She's a high school dropout. She's got all of these things. She gets to meet, old friends, the Red Aces. We get to know a little bit about her, knowing where she's from. Yes, it's a little cliche, but at the same time, it's like it builds the story pretty quick. But she's out on her own. And even though the Misfits come and bring like her back in, that doesn't happen till the end. So quite literally, the Misfits are kind of out of this episode from that point on. And I kind of was really good to see her be on her own. I mean, that we got when Stormer's been on her own, the character just kind of brings out different things in the characters that you wouldn't see normally. And so for me, I was all right with it just because, again, you get to see her where her old stomping ground. I don't know how it is that she came from that situation and turned into a rock star, not being able to read. How did she cross paths with Pizzazz, who's like this rich, spoiled girl?
Yeah, that's the other thing about these origin stories. They give us insight into the specific character that they're doing for that episode.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever see why or how
it was that they all came together. I don't think we ever. Yeah, I think you're right. We don't ever really see how they actually get together like that. So, we do for the holograms, just not the Misfits.
Not the Misfits. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, the only thing I think of is maybe she was just playing guitar somewhere, and maybe something happened, and Pizzazz just like, hey, I'd really like to have a
that'd be an interesting their origins and how they got together.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe if we'd had another season, maybe they would have done that.
Maybe. What about you, Nicole? What'd you like about this one? Everything, I assume.
Well, of course, I'm a Roxy fan. I just really like. I just really liked it all. I'm sorry. I just liked how she really got the spotlight, and you can actually see that someone, even though she has money, she still has problems. And of course, I think that's
money doesn't fix everything.
I think that's what we forget in life. Yeah, money. Yeah, it helps. Trust me, but it doesn't solve everything. Yeah. I mean, how many people do we see that are multimillionaires, but they're dying of a horrible disease that can't be cured?
They're completely miserable. Yeah, like the war, who has a bad relationship with his daughter.
Yeah, and so I just like the whole lottery thing. That was kind of weird. Yeah, I just thought it was, but I just wish they would have stuck with the literacy thing, and I would have liked to see, an aftermath of more with her and Bonnie. I think that would have been like, I would like to have seen more of that. But overall, I think I really had a fun time. She goes into the one place that she always thought she was outcast from, the House of Glamour. I really thought that was awesome. So I'm like, that sounds kind of like a fun place. Go.
Sounds like...
Yep. I can't imagine that Pizzazz would go out of her way to share all of her riches with the girls either, because she's so self-centered. So it makes sense that, even as a rock star, she's never been in there. But I think, again, the convenience of the $1 million thing was kind of a little cheesy. But at the same time, it also plays this element of, it kind of goes to show that Roxy, in a sense, is kind of dependent on the Misfits, on that fame and fortune that comes with that. I would think that she'd have been given, a little bit of money of her own, just because of, how much records they sell and stuff like that she'd have like a little cut of her own. But, it also, the other thing that I thought was kind of really crazy, which we'll get to, is the fact that, okay, she buys a car and she drives from West Coast to East Coast.
Well, yeah, we will most definitely get that.
Again, timing.
Yeah.
Well, it's not even the timing. It's just the whole fact that she's driving. We'll get to it.
Yeah. Hologram
moments.
I haven't said mine yet. Sorry.
Oh, I thought you did.
I've just been commenting.
I asked you.
Okay, so I have mentioned a few things. I like the fact that she can't read. I like the fact that she smashes guitars at concerts.
Yes.
Talking about taking her cut, she does. I
want to see that.
Have a cut. She just loses the cut because she smashes guitars. I love it. I like the fact that they also, she's a high school dropout. I thought the moral of the story was a good one. Being careful of what you sign and having the ability to read it. It's kind of important. We've all mentioned the fact that Bonnie has given her a book. The fact that she takes it and doesn't I'm not going to take this book from this little girl and I don't need that. No, actually she does take it. She's very grateful for that. I mean, as grateful as Roxy can be. She's like, you're going to give this to me? And she keeps it. So
I thought that was a really good moment. I don't think she was ever, because it kind of shows that I don't think she was ever really loved or taken care of when she was younger.
Well, if she was a street kid, yeah. I mean, we don't really know her personal origins, but it kind of plays off her name is Roxanne Pellegrini. I could just imagine, and she's from Philadelphia. I could just imagine that she had, drunk parents or whatever, and she just went to the streets, and that's why she became a part of a street gang. So.
Yo, Adrian!
There you go.
You dirty rat! You killed my brother! You dirty rat! Anyway, the whole thing with her and... See, this is what I was talking about. I wish this part was structured better. Instead of having Jetta make fun of her and her just brushing it off, I wish the door to her room was closed and Bonnie was there attempting to help her. I know that would be a little hard to try to sneak her in around, the other Misfits, but that's what I'm saying.
Why would Jem allow one of the Starlight kids to do that too? So
yeah.
Well, true, but I mean, it's one of those things where Jem and Jerrica let them do pretty much anything else. That's I mean, let's face it, the Starlight Girls. I mean, the Starlight Girls are not the most supervised children in the world, and coming from someone who has been in a group home, in my youth, so long ago. God, I'm so old.
There's that word again.
I said I am so old. I know that the group homes have plenty of staff there, and I get it. Jerrica is they're struggling. They're trying to do their music stuff and everything else, but it's one of those things where you have to pay attention to both. Yeah. And I mean, hell, they let Bonnie run away for crap's sake, and then they let 3 more girls go try to find her. Yeah. So Bonnie
let them. They didn't just say, "Okay, here's the door. Go run away. We want you to run away. We don't love you anymore." That's not what's happening.
What I'm saying is Bonnie ran away, and then they let Chrissy, Ashley, and Deidre, whoever it was, they let them go look for her. So if they're gonna let them do that, I don't see why they wouldn't allow.
I remember it a little bit differently. I thought that they were they followed because they didn't want Bonnie to get into trouble and all of that.
Like I said, my memory fails me. I'm too old, so.
That's okay. No, I know what you're saying, but at the same time, Jeddah, I think is a good thing that she kind of comes back and teases her, because Jeddah is that type of character. There's this rivalry going on between Jeddah and Roxy. So Roxy comes off as the tough girl. The fact that she keeps the book kind of shows, like I said,
a kid reader book is even.
Well, and it happens before the Misfits come back. So she's got this brave front, this brave face when she's around people that she is tough with. But when she's out on her own, it seems like to me that tough girl kind of act kind of gets dropped to a point. So we see a different side of Roxy because of that. And as soon as the Misfits show up again, she's like, "Now beat it, kid." She's back to the whole, I'm a tough girl and I can take this and I'm gonna in Jeddah's face, blah blah blah. So the fact that she shows her out of the room at the very end and Jeddah gives her a hard time, and she's tough, but it doesn't stop her from the fact that I think she really learned a lesson in this episode that, hey, I had all this money and I could have done it on my own, but because I couldn't read, it got taken away from me, and I don't like that control. So I think that's her motivation for doing what she does and learning to she opens up the book and starts motivating herself to learn how to read.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So, I liked it because of that. So.
Anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Nicole, anything else?
No, I think everyone knows my thoughts on this. It's just Roxy. Of course, I'm gonna love it.
Crazy, but she's awesome.
I just like that she has a soft side.
Yeah. I mean, this is the only time we ever see a soft side for her.
Well, see, this is the episode that made me love Roxy the most, because I think that's what I was like when I was younger. I wanted to be that tough girl, but I always had that scared side, that soft side to me. So I kind of like this episode because of that. You have to put on a big front. I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. And then you go into your room and you cry. Yeah. So I kind of felt
that really, after seeing this episode, I would see Roxy as that type of kid, that type of woman that would be like, hey, I've got this tough girl. I will only be that way when no one's looking.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's why this is like I said, this is the episode that made me love Roxy, because she does have a soft side. And you want to see more of it. So
yeah, let's Misfit moment it up, man.
Rock on.
You stole my line.
stores. You tell me who flop, who cop the blue drop, who Jews got pop, who's mostly Dolce down to the blue top. The same old pimp, Mace, you know ain't nothing changed but my limp. Can't stop till I see my name on a blimp. Guarantee a million sales, call it level up. You don't believe in Harlem World, double up. We don't play around, it's a bet, lay it down. Niggas didn't know me 91, bet they know me now. I'm the young Harlem with the Goldie sound. Can't no PD, hold me down, cooler. School me to the game, now I know my duty. Stay humble, stay low, blow like Hootie. True pimp, spin no dough on the booty. When you yell, there go Mace, there go your cutie.
All right, it is time for Misfit Moments. I guess I will go first since I have the most nitpicks because I know Nicole probably has nothing.
I actually have a few. I do.
All right, we'll get to them.
Totally
Seriously,
biased.
Pizzazz. Yes, you are. Don't lie. Seriously, Pizzazz and Jetta need to lay off Roxy. This is the exact same thing they did when Stormer was, in the Stormer episode, and even then, Roxy was a part of that. And it just, where's the character growth for Pizzazz? Like, so, okay, Jetta we really can't count because Jetta just came in, but seriously, they just went through this with Pizzazz, with the Stormer episode, with her brother and all that. And it's like, they were making fun of Stormer. It's like...
It just goes to show that no matter what you do, Pizzazz is never going to change. And she pushes anybody away. Like I said before, it's like, this is just her. It's just her itching powder. She is itching powder on everybody. She's a spoiled little brat, and she gets her way all the time. And that means that her ire will be turned on you at any time. That's who Pizzazz is.
All right, so the paper, I believe I have this right. I could have it wrong, but the paper that we see that has Roxy's fee on it that she gets minus her part of her cut for breaking the guitar. I assume it's $24,000.
That's what I saw.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. It says $24,000 on it, yet the wad of cash that Eric puts in her hand does not look like $24,000. It looks like about,
Wasn't that the cut that they took away from hers for breaking the guitar? It was kind of hard to see because it was upside down.
I'll have to go back and look at it again, and the screen cap will be in the post. But if her cut was, minus the guitar, let's say her cut was $45,000, and they took out, whatever that is to equal 24. $24,000. The wad of money he put in her hand does not look like $24,000.
Maybe it was all 100s.
Maybe. Still.
It's Raymond, maybe he knows secretly that she can't read, so he just gypped her.
Probably.
It's Eric, he's a cheapskate.
Now, I have a huge issue with the songs in this episode.
I'm glad somebody else brought that up, because I was going to
if we had... I know Roxy is guitar and backup vocals and all that kind of stuff, but and people are going to hate me for referencing this, but in live shows, Ryan Peake, who is the rhythm guitar and backing vocals for Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, in the live shows he does do some headlining live vocals with the songs that Nickelback sings, and he's obviously has a very different voice than Chad Kroeger. I really wish in the past we would have heard Roxy, like an actual unique, different singing voice for Roxy.
That was my biggest complaint about this.
Yeah. Because just, no offense to, I don't have the name off the top of my head, whoever the singer is for Phyllis, no offense to them, but it just doesn't sound as sincere as Roxy wants it to be when she's singing. Okay, the driving. As Roxy
my gosh, you're taking all mine. I swear. You're taking less than Raja.
I know, right? No, it's not even that. It's not even her actual driving. It's the fact that she's driving at all. Because does she have her license? Is she driving without a license? Mm. Because you have to read to be able to pass a driver's test.
True.
Well, just like her friend from the Red Aces, he says that he could read, I want to be able to read more than a stop sign. So he could read traffic laws.
No, well, what I'm saying is we've seen in this episode that she can't read stuff on paper. In driving school, you have to be able to read that written test. You have to be able to see those questions. So
I didn't think about that.
That's what I'm saying.
She's driving without a license, probably.
Yeah, that's not good.
Or she just gotta, she's a street kid. They know how to get IDs that are
fake IDs.
A fake ID, so she's got a fake.
Oh God. Oh, yeah. All right,
she
Nicole,
paid money. I mean, maybe she paid some of her money that she actually got when she didn't break a guitar to go go do that. She's got a fake ID. Just put it in the right direction. Just stay on the right side of the road. That's the brake. That's the gas. There you go. How hard could it be?
True.
Wow.
Sorry.
All right, Nicole. For
I'm sure that GeekCast Radio Network does not endorse random driving without a license.
Or illegal documentation, or
pirating things, or stealing money.
Well. Pirating stuff is a little different, but anyway.
We found the line. We found the line where it's drawn.
If it benefits us and it doesn't hurt anybody else.
Do you work for the government?
No. No, you do.
Yeah, that's true. I do. And I know that's what way that they think. So.
Take it away with your misfit moments,
okay.
Nicole.
I had a hard time believing that Jem and the Holograms got their PSA in one take. I don't care how good you are. That kind of ticked me off. I'm like, of course, Jem, she's perfect. She's going to get rid of the first day. I have to do my Roxy thing. Like, yeah, right. What are they doing here? Okay. I didn't like that once that Roxy won the lottery, she kind of tore the Misfits out as if she didn't ever care to be in the Misfits. It was kind of like, I felt kind of like it was an inconvenience to her that she was in this band. I just got that feeling. And we know that's not true. You know, she kind of needs them. And then you talking about how Roxy's singing voices is the same as pizzazz.
Her pride was her. Her pride was hers.
Yeah,
so she
that's
was
true.
Like, you know, hey, I don't need that. I don't need this anymore.
Exactly. And I have Roxy takes driving lessons from Aja. And my last one is Jem and the Holograms never paid their cabbie. Not one of them had money to them.
For shame.
I know. Here you are telling people you need to be honest with your fellow doings, and you guys don't even pay your cabbie. What the heck?
Now, wait a second. Did we not see them? Because, see, here's the thing. Because we've all taken cabs in our lifetimes. I pay the cabbies before I even get out of the cab, before I even step out. So they could have passed him the money because he didn't go after them.
They never. He couldn't leave his cab there. They were stuck in traffic. They never passed him money.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
See,
all
Jem,
right.
stealing from cabbies, stealing from hard workers.
Oh, this coming from the woman who approves of Roxy nearly murdering Kimber in season 1.
Hey. Whole different situation.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
People taking money and people taking lives is a whole different situation. Kimber was still in her band. Jeez.
Come on.
It's a crime of passion. This whole thing about not paying the cabbie is a whole different situation.
It's a justification.
That's robbery.
Crime of passion.
Robbery. Yeah, you have robbery versus a crime of passion.
Kit Kat, give me a break already. Oh my god.
Hey, I know people out there understand it. Crime of passion is a whole different situation. And the jury would have let her go. The jury's not going to let her Jem go on not paying the cabbie.
Oh my god, you're just making up excuses now.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No,
all right, Aimee.
It's not an
what about
excuse.
yes,
It's the truth. You can't handle it.
You can't handle the truth.
What do you got, Aimee?
I am like you. I wanted Roxy's voice in her song to be hers, not Pizzazz's, because it was very clearly Pizzazz's. I was fine with the Gimme 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 one because obviously that's a song that they've used before. It's just kind of recycled. It makes sense.
Well, yeah, no, but the song.
It was just her. It was just her walking. It was just her by herself. She was the one. I'm gonna change.
Yeah.
So that was one. I found it funny that she'd drive all the way across the U.S. to Philadelphia, dressed exactly as she was when she left California. Okay, I don't know if anybody's ever made that trip before, but when I was a little kid, we drove from Arizona all the way to New York State because I have a lot of family in New York State. It took us 3 days to get there. Yeah. And I can guarantee you when you get out of that car,
stop.
If you don't
stop, you change drivers and everything, and you're just like,
we do that for like a good, If you don't stop, yes, it'll take you probably about 2 days. My parents, they do the long night, and then we like stop over and rest up for a little bit because 2 drivers, we were 3 kids in the back seat. You're gonna want to stop eventually because 3 kids in the back seat is enough to make anybody gonna go crazy.
I do know, because I have done drives like this, I do know from Massachusetts to here to Kentucky, and from Kentucky to Massachusetts, if you drive straight through, it's a 20-hour drive. If you don't, obviously you stop at rest areas and stuff like that, but if you don't stop to spend the night somewhere, it's a 20-hour drive. So yeah,
and it was definitely East Coast or West Coast to East Coast, so that map that they showed on there, she wouldn't come out looking as really hot and as cute as she was, especially if there's some guy that says, "Oh, look at that car and look at that hot chick inside." She would not look so hot after a 20-hour drive. I'm just saying.
No.
So, yeah. I thought it was kind of odd to me because I guess I just didn't catch the memo until I actually heard you read the blurb for this, that that they had promised a lot of free merchandise. So when I went through it and I was like, everything is free, I was like, I don't think I've ever been to any event where everything is free like that. So the fact that they were advertising, again, like I've mentioned this earlier as we were talking, just, I don't understand how, well, not only that, is that if that were the case, I have a hard time believing that everybody that showed up would get so upset that they would cause a riot like that either. I mean, because maybe a few people would get irate, but entitlement issues much?
Yeah, really.
Everybody starts like harassing these people. They're running out of stuff. I'd be like, if anything, I would just start, they might just lose people. They would start leaving. I don't know if they would actually start being that destructive. I mean, it's like the zombie horde.
Black Friday is a good example. You see what people do for free stuff there.
Free, that's got its own, it's got its own reputation attached to it, and it's had a couple of years to kind of wind up, right? This is just some random Roxy Rumble that popped up overnight that had very little advertising, that you'd think, how is it that everybody got this special phone call and said, hey, come to the Roxy Rumble, it's all free. I don't know. There were just a few things that I thought, okay, I don't know if I just don't, and I don't know if normal people showing up, if they would be that, irate, and that they would be like, I want my free stuff. It's like, obviously, if things are starting to sell out really quick, once it's gone, it's gone. They just turn around and walk away. Like, okay, that was bad advertising. To go and harass the event person and say, hey, you're out of free stuff. It's like, sorry,
Yeah, see, and I'm sure, and when I bring this up, I'm sure you guys will agree. You've been to your own state fairs, haven't you?
Oh, yeah.
Like the Arizona State Fair, Utah State. Well, the Kentucky State Fair, they hold, and I'm sure they do this in your all states as well, they hold free concerts, but you still have to pay admission to get into the fairgrounds, and then obviously you have to pay for your drinks and whatever else, but at least you can see the concert for free.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was a little outrageous. No pun intended at all. It really.
But then again, you got to remember, she doesn't know anything about putting on a show or even contracts. I mean, that was the whole point. She got screwed in the end because she did not know how to fend for herself, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, so I that being said, I thought it was a great distraction from the Gem of the Holograms event. I mean, really, if she were going to steal thunder, that's how you steal it. She did a good job doing that. So more of that. That would be good. That would be really good. Okay, I was also, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah. That's
okay. What are we going to rate this episode, Aimee?
Are we doing ratings already?
At the end?
Sure.
Yeah.
No, we'll do it now.
All right. I'm going to rate this one a 4, just because I thought it was pretty solid. How I didn't. Granted, there's a few things that driving across the United States, and a few little things to nitpick out with like the voice and stuff. But for the most part, I really liked Roxy's origin story. So I only wish that I think the only other thing that I want to know how she went from being, that street kid to being a rock star. How did she meet up with pizzazz? Yeah. But that's not what this story was about. So yeah, I'm going with 4.
What about you, Nicole?
I'm giving it a 4 as well. Like I said, this is the episode that made me love Roxy when I was younger, and it's got a good story to it, mostly. It's got a good moral that
and no Rio.
Yeah. 4.5, I should say. Screw it. 4.5. Yeah. I don't know.
No, oh my god.
And Bonnie wasn't insufferable. So.
But Bonnie was actually a good part of the show. And she was the actual heart of the show. She's the one that actually reached out to a person that really doesn't deserve her help, but it literally changed her life. And there's another good moral of the story. Just you never know what other people are suffering, and I really like that. So yeah, I'll go to 4.5. There you go. No Rio.
Right. Well, Roxy did say she was going to change, so
Yeah.
it does change. She changes.
Mm-hmm.
Next time we see her, she's like reading, right?
Sure.
I'm not sure.
You
I
know,
don't think you
because
ever even come back to it.
Nicole's rating is 4.5. Amy's is 4. I'm going to be the downer of the show and give it 3.5.
That's okay. We still love you.
It just doesn't. The whole driving thing. The whole thing with the singing voice. It just. No. So we're gonna get to the next episode after this.
Stars. I see some friendly faces, they smile at me, and then, just like every other time, I'm alone again, all alone again. Looking in the mirror, I don't like what I see. I'm not the person I'd hoped I would be. Always feels like people are laughing at me. Alone again, with just my song, alone again, which is right where I belong. What good is it to fight it? Just accept it and amen. It's like every other time. I'm alone again, all alone again, alone again, all alone again, alone again. Everything's going in circles, everyone's so intense, all of it seems so mysterious, and none of it makes any sense. This must be a nightmare, I'm going through a nightmare. What am I gonna do? I'm stuck in a time warp. How did I go astray? Baby, the matter is serious. Won't somebody show me the way? This must be a nightmare. When's it gonna end? Nightmare. Lost without a friend. Nightmare. The world's so unkind. Nightmare. Have I lost my mind?
All right. Up next is, I can't believe we're only on the second episode today, ladies and
What?
gentlemen.
That's because we did the comic thing.
No. It's not because we did that.
It was
We did
a
that
serious...
did that a year ago.
I see what you did.
It's a
Alone.
serious. It's a serious. It was a serious topic, and unfortunately, this one is too. So.
Yeah, it's full of serious topics today. Alone Again, the air date was October 23rd, 1987. Laura Holloway, a new Starlight girl with a talent for music, falls victim to a drug dealer named Bobby Braddock. At her school, Ashley plays an important role again, this time helping to confront Laura and eventually help the police catch Bobby. Featured songs are Alone Again by Laura, Nightmare, Gem and the Holograms, and Look Inside Yourself, Gem and the Holograms.
Darn you, Bobby.
I think, I forget which episode it is now, because I've already done all the production on this show, but whatever it was where I put the, this is your brain on drugs. It's like, just say no to drugs, kids. I think I'm putting if I can find it, I think I'm going to put a McGruff the Crime Dog ad in this episode.
The Gruff song.
What do we think of this plot, ladies? Amy, you can go first.
I liked it. Last one was about reading. This one's about drugs. It makes sense because back in the 80s, I remember there was this huge push on both of those. So
yeah,
there you go. I mean, at first, because I watched this last night, I thought, what direction is this going again? Because I couldn't remember this one specifically because I don't know, something about it just did not impact me really hard. But as an adult, no, I look at it now and I'm like going, okay, I see, because I've not that I've actually been a drug addict, but I know quite a few of the patterns of things like that. And to be honest, they put a lot of realistic reactions in this. And so I look at it and think, if you're a parent and you're showing this to your kids, this is a great conversation piece to show and to talk about drugs in a safe way with your kids. That's one thing I really took out of this episode that I really, really liked. I mean, now that I'm looking at it as a parent, because I have kids, but it just, the fact that they were illustrating so well just the stuff that happens, from what I understand of addiction and whatnot, it just, yeah. I mean, and it can be used for any kind of addiction. We're not just talking drugs. We're talking about lots of different things that could potentially be pitfall for a child. But like just being able to understand that dynamic, see what's going on, and what you'd be subjected to. I feel bad for this kid, but I also like the ending as well, because it all works out and they're able to put that Bobby in jail. So it's also a warning to drug dealers as well. So they don't ever actually say what kind of drugs it is that they're using. I mean, when they have
they kind of do. They don't say it outright, but like the first one was a hallucinogen.
Yeah.
The second one was
the same.
Well, yeah, the pills
look
the same, yeah.
But and then they also they did mention at the end when Laura goes to the support group, one of the girls says crack. So
I don't think it was crack. I don't ever remember
she was on
crack
crack.
coming.
I think the girl
okay.
She was talking about her addiction when she was on crack. When I was on crack, blah 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 blah. So, but it just kind of goes to show too, because the situation we have in this this instance is the Bobby Braddock. It looks like he's giving pills, so it could be like medicine stuff that he's just getting out of medicine cabinet somewhere. I don't know what it's the fact that, oh well, it's not illegal drugs kind of I feel to it, but even prescription drugs used in a way that's wrong can have bad effects too. So I think they hit that really, really hard, prescription drugs especially. But then, of course, the fact that, the girl said when she was on crack, and I was like, okay, so we're pretty much hitting drugs as a whole, addiction as a whole in this. And I liked it. It's a good conversation piece. I would feel very comfortable sitting down and having a conversation with my kids about this episode specifically and talking about it and feeling like I'm hitting a really big chunk of what happens with addiction in this episode. Because they just kind of hit, it seems, a lot of dynamics to it. So
I think the pill could be something equivalent to ecstasy or something like that, or something that you would see him like in a nightclub passing out to everybody. And it's interesting that it's in a schoolyard, and which
a lot of kids get exposed to drugs that way. I mean, I remember being in high school and finding out one of the guys that I went to my art class had done drugs right there at my high school. And I said, how did you get a hold of that stuff? I didn't think that I lived in a small town. And he said, oh, you find it. It's everywhere. It's like, you want it, you can get it. I can get you some. I was like, no, I'm not interested. But I said, but you shouldn't be doing those things either. So yeah, I know, but I did them. I'm like, so stop. Don't do it anymore.
It's one of those things where I really, and I'll talk about this in the misfit moments, actually, now that I've thought about this, I wonder about the people that are at that school, about the administrators, because there were not nearly enough teachers around those kids. In the episode. In the episode, there weren't nearly enough teachers.
Kids find a way. I mean, they're either out on the playground or, in between classes, or even right in the middle of a class. Like I said, I found out, like, my friend in one of my art classes was doing drugs. So, I mean, that's just conversation. It was an art class, so like the teacher wasn't always like right there in front of us, but it's just chattering while we're talking and doing our work, So things can happen. Kids will find a way. If you get 20 kids in a classroom with one adult, seriously, a lot of stuff is going to go down there and you don't know.
True. thoughts on the plot, Nicole?
Oh, this is one that hits really close to home currently. Yeah, so I mean, I'm dealing with.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot we had our very own resident.
I was going to say our resident junkie here.
Yeah. Well, no, it's
not that you tried to go out of your way.
Not that I'm not going to. Yeah. No.
We're joking about it.
Yeah, I have a couple of really close loved ones that I've been dealing with addiction and rehab, and the situation that Laura's in, it's very common with the people that my loved ones that I'm dealing with right now. It's just like they were having, a bout of depression, and fortunately someone came up to support them, but in a more sinister way. They found that they were weak and they preyed on them. And unfortunately, just a few moments of those, just a few moments of that brings a lifetime of recovery. And, and it's a very sad road. So this episode was just like, dang. I put in my notes, it's like a full length PSA. And so, but it's also I mean, even today you could show this episode and people
it's still relevant. Yeah,
it is. And it's very, and it's one of those episodes you're like, wow, this is for a kid show, but it's really deep, but it's needed because you're thinking, oh, kids that young aren't going to be influenced by drugs at that age, and you're just like, it's everywhere, people.
This is something that we haven't brought out yet, but Laura Holloway, she's lost her parents, she's been orphaned, and she has a very low self image of herself. So she's like, she's vulnerable. She feels bad about it. She's like, she's got this really great singing voice. I really liked the song that she sang.
Oh God, I love that song.
It was she just sang it with the guitar, and they did it was completely acoustic. So just to have that, and it was a very pretty song, but like she can't accept, like the Gem and the Holograms, they ask her to be a part of their concert in a week, and she's like, oh, I'm not that great, it wasn't that great, and she's like, putting herself down without like actually listening to this rock group that's saying, no, we really want you to be a part of our show because that was really good. So it's like, hey.
She was putting herself down even before she took the drugs.
Yeah.
I mean,
she
has self-esteem issues.
Yeah. Her image of herself is very low. And I think that speaks to a lot of kids. This is one of the things that I kind of really took away at the very beginning of this, is the fact that you have a kid that's expressing emotions of how they feel, their self-image is very low of themselves. And I mean, I can understand. I mean, it does not go into how it is that, her parents are gone now. I don't know if they didn't give her enough self-esteem or something like that. I mean, because I don't think losing your parents would suddenly make you feel that way about yourself. But she's a 14-year-old girl that has some of those issues. And that does make, I think, anybody at that age really vulnerable to a predator like that, who would come in there and say, oh, I can make you feel better about yourself. And, it's this easy thing. And technically, you can fix that without drugs. But, taking a little pill that would make you feel better, you think, oh, okay, I don't think it's going to work, but I'll try it. And you're like, and that's basically what she falls into, is that she does that for that reason. And I'm like, girl, you didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. But I just really liked that. The language of, she's vulnerable already as it is. She's being taken out of everything that she knows. She's already feeling low about herself. She's ripe for somebody to come along and take advantage. And they do. So.
Absolutely. Any other thoughts on the plot?
Oh, it's good.
All right, let's get to the hologram moments after this. Alright, it is time for the hologram moments. I do find it interesting how every single show we have ever watched, whether it's cartoon or live action or whatever else, they always find interesting ways to bring up the drug use episode. Like, the drug use episode is by far the least cliched thing in media history, because there are so many different ways to approach it.
Very true.
We can talk about, reused movie plot lines or remakes or whatever else, and usually, no matter what it is, whether it's Gem and the Holograms, whether it's, a comic book or whatever, everything's, Beverly Hills 90210 for crap's sake, everything has a different way of approaching it. And I really do like how they approach this because, first of all, this is the first new Starlight Girl since we saw Deidre, I believe, back in season 1.
Oh, it is.
Unless Deidre was already there and they just brought her to the forefront in those stories. But, this is the first, new coming into Starlight House as far as a new girl goes. So I like that. I like how they dealt with the problem. Nicole's going to hate me for this, but I like how there's no misfits in this episode.
Yeah, it seemed to be pretty much it's another Starlight Girl kind of focus, and Jerrica is also involved in it as well. I think that she plays a pretty big role in it, because there is a part in there where Laura finally is focusing and listening to what Jerrica is saying, and I like the fact that they mimic a parent, basically a parent figure that doesn't react badly or over the top. She's just, it's a good example of kind of how a parent or just some sort of parental figure, rather than get too upset or not upset enough. I think that she's just handling it. She's being realistic about it. Nothing that Laura says shocks her. And I think that's really good to kind of, it's not, I wouldn't say completely non-emotional, but it is very realistic way, I think, of approaching it, because you don't want to push a kid away by how you react to what they're saying. And if you overreact, and it's like, oh great, it's too much reaction, they might, get scared off. But I think it seemed to me to be an appropriate reaction to how it is. So like I said, as an adult looking at this, I took a lot out of it, more than I think I ever did as a kid taking out of it. I just thought, oh, okay, so just say no to drugs and you have no problem with that, because that seemed like it was a lot of stuff that she was completely out of control, and I don't want to be like that. Well, there you go. But, anybody can, and anybody is susceptible, because it doesn't necessarily take a drug dealer to get you on drugs. There are a lot of exposure to it that can cause different things. So,
absolutely. Any other hologram moments, Aimee?
Let's see here. Let me look at my notes real quick. I already mentioned about, okay. Oh, I did put a list in here of what I thought was, I liked the symptoms of how they kind of illustrated the symptoms of the drug use. The pickup lines from the drug kid, the paranoia that she ends up experiencing, the sleeplessness, the stealing, all of it just kind of the things that happened, the different dynamics. I really just really liked how they just made it work. Again, I'm glad that the song that they used in here was Laura's voice, and I'm kind of sad because it's like, hey, we get a character that's just introduced gets to have her own song, and I'm kind of sad that they didn't do the same thing to Roxy in the last episode, because I was like, oh. I also thought it was kind of funny that when they finally get down to it, the kid that the Bobby wants $30. $30 for the drugs next round. And I was like, that's a lot for a 14-year-old, because, hey, if you're not getting could have been a whole lot more, but
that's
for
addiction,
a 14-year-old.
though. So
yeah,
they gotta find out how to do it, how to get it.
Yeah,
so.
and they will, but like I'm thinking, that's the thing is that once they start charging, like, hey, it could be $30 this time, it could be $50 next time, it could be $100 after that, they could change it any way that they want it. So I love this thing that they do in the end as well. So get Bobby off that street, man. Get him out of school,
that was awesome.
put him in jail. Yeah.
Absolutely. What about you, Nicole? Hologram moments?
Hologram moments. Let's see. I love the Alone Again. I really did like that song. I could actually listen to that over and over again.
It's very pretty.
I really enjoyed how Jerrica showed true, honest concern. She didn't freak out. She realized that this girl has a problem, and she is willing to give her the help that she needs. And I like the situation where they had like the addiction meeting because, like I said, sitting in addiction meetings with some of my loved ones, that's very similar. There's people that are thinking, I got this under control. I don't need help. And then it just takes the other people who have been going through it saying, listen up. You've got a problem. We've been where you're at. You've got to admit it. You've got to get help. And so I really liked how they made that like a true to life situation. Okay, this one's just mostly for me. This next hologram moment, but at the arcade was called Tilt. I played at an arcade called Tilt, and I'm like, yay, that's awesome.
I thought it was interesting that it was a neutral location. They didn't do that on school grounds.
Yeah.
I was like, all of the drug passing had been on school grounds, so the fact that it happened off school grounds, I thought, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I really did enjoy that part. I was
I mean, this South High School looks to me like it's a public high school. It's not one of those private schools.
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't know if it had happened on school grounds, if the school would try to, and let's face it, Bobby's not, from a rich, high society family, but at the same time, to protect the school's reputation, I'm not sure if they would want to sweep it under the rug, anything like that. So that's, I'm kind of glad it didn't happen on school grounds.
Yeah.
And he's a drug dealer. It doesn't matter for him. It doesn't matter where he deals the drugs. He can deal them anywhere.
He can deal them anywhere. I just remember when I was in high school, they did drug checks. And it wasn't against, it actually was it didn't hurt the school in any way because it was, that's just how it went. They made it perfectly clear that if they had any reason to doubt that you had drugs, they would have the police come and open up your locker and do an investigation and everything. And there were a couple times where you saw police officers that came to the school for that reason. And I think, because the rumor sometimes that's a bigger deterrent than anything else because kids will talk. They'll talk amongst themselves and whatnot. It was like, hey, did you see those cops? Blah, 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 and that in a sense, and that was when I was in high school, which was a few years after I'd actually watched this. But, liability sometimes, I think sometimes they'll take any of those anonymous, tattlings or whatever as serious just because it also puts faith in the community as well, knowing that, hey, the high school is taking things seriously and they're searching if they feel that they need to search, they will. So. Absolutely.
And some high schools nowadays have metal detectors before you even go into them.
Yeah, there's that too. And
a
lot has changed since, we were little kids watching this show.
Yeah, a lot has changed since the 80s.
Yeah.
30 years ago. Holy crap. For me, I saw all kinds of different stuff with all kinds of different schools because when I was a freshman in high school, I never stuck to one school because I was a ward of the state and I was always, I was in and out of foster homes, I was in and out of group homes. So even though I didn't repeat the freshman year, I would always say every new place, oh, well, I'm still in my freshman year or whatever. I'm in my sophomore year or whatever. It was like every new school, it's like, hey, it's a new freshman year because I'm at a different school.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, this episode really, like, this is, anyone that says that they need to, anyone that says that we shouldn't show children stuff from the 80s, this is a learning episode, like you already said, Aimee. Anybody should show their kids this episode to teach them the right and wrong way to do, or not. Do what is done here.
Well, even if it's just for two reasons. One, you can even show your kids just so they can get an idea because how they illustrate the addiction that Laura goes through, but even so that you can see how some people are when they are on drugs, because that's another thing that happened when I was in high school. I was taking a talk about drugs. My dad's a pharmacist, so when it comes to drugs, I know drugs.
Wait a second here. We've got a pharmacist and a drug dealer on this podcast.
I'm not an official drug dedealer.
No, not
joke.
You. Her.
No, I'm sort of talking about, we joke, but Nicole really is a drug dealer. No, because my parents, my dad talked to me about, the effects of drugs and how people will react and what some of the reactions are. I actually took a PE class, I think it was either my freshman or sophomore year, where I knew these girls, the way that they act, I thought they were on drugs, and I turned them in. Not because I was trying to be mean to them, but because I was seriously concerned for them, because I thought, okay, they were lower classmen. I must have been a junior, actually, now that I think about it, because I was a little bit older. I don't know. Long story short, they were acting like they were high in a way, and they were laughing about the dumbest things, and it was completely not what they usually act like. And I knew one of the girls came from she had some issues and whatnot, because I think I had had a moment in the locker room where she was upset about something, and so to see her acting the way that she was, I was genuinely concerned, and I went to my school counselor and I said, I think she's on drugs, because she was acting high, and I described some of the other symptoms and whatnot, and I was like, I don't want to get her in trouble, but I also don't think that she needs that right now with the other issues that are going on in her life. And I'm like, I don't want to see her hurt, because if she overdoses, that would be terrible. And I would feel terrible if I found out, because I said nothing, that, something happens to her. So I don't know if anything ever came out of it, because I don't remember she didn't leave school suddenly or anything like that. And they didn't have cops come and check her locker or anything. But I felt better knowing that I had said something. And, it's just one of those things that you just, if you know anybody or you having issues yourself, just don't mess with it, because there are bad outcomes when it comes to drugs. And it can affect your life forever, or it can be really quick and out of your life really, really fast. So,
All right, let's get to the Misfit moments after this. Time for the Misfit moments for All Alone Again. Really, honestly, the only thing I wrote down about this is kind of what I said at the beginning with the plot. I find myself wondering where the hell and what the hell are Eric and the Misfits doing this entire episode? Not that I think we needed to see them in it, But I just, when they don't show up, because they are the nemesis of Gem and the Holograms, and we kind of expect them to show up at this point. I'm just wondering what in the heck are they up to?
Or just have one of the Misfit girls, randomly walking around in the background.
I am a big Misfit fan. We all know that. But I could honestly say I didn't miss them in this episode. It was a good episode.
I don't miss them.
Don't know how they would have been able to put them in there because I don't want them actually tied to the whole drugs thing.
Yeah, no.
Because like that, I like that being an outside problem. That's something,
There are, and we'll talk about this with the final episode when we get to there after this, but there are certain things Eric and the Misfits, they do have a line that they will not cross, I mean, so that is good, even though, Pizzazz and Jetta and Roxy are all off their rockers, quite literally. At least they do have a line in what they don't actively go to set up to hurt Gem and the Holograms. At least they know where a line is. So,
yeah.
Any Misfit moments, Aimee?
The only Misfit moment that I have is the fact that when Jericho goes up on the house roof to keep Laura from falling off, I don't know if she really would have been able to catch Laura like she did. I mean, yeah, she's 14 years old, but I have an 11-year-old kid here that I'm like,
adrenaline does wonders.
True, but I would still be hard pressed to grab him and pull him away from a ledge. I mean, I would do it, but the way that she catches her, it just seems like she grabs her from behind and pulls her in, and I'm like, certainly adrenaline can do a lot, but I just like, I wasn't quite sure that she'd be able to pull her off like that. And I was like, unless she's like a really small, little 14-year-old, there would be at least some struggle there. She would have be like really pulling to pull her out, but I don't know. That was just my take out of it. That's the only thing that I could find with this, though, that I was like, that's a Misfit moment. Mm-hmm. Everything else, I mean, it was such a solid episode that I was just like really impressed with it. So
before Nicole goes, you mentioned about the ledge and them on there, and all I can think of is a certain film that came out a few months before this episode aired, March of 1987. Lethal Weapon came out, and all I can think of is Riggs and the guy on the ledge. You want to go nuts? Let's get nuts. You want to jump? Let's jump. Come on. No, man, you're crazy, man. Like seriously, that's all I can think about is that scene from Lethal Weapon.
And the fact that afterwards they arrest the guy, he's like, he's crazy, man. He's crazy.
Man, I need to go back and watch that.
Oh,
that was
Riggs was a special kind of crazy. Everybody's favorite crazy cop, Riggs.
Nope. What do you got for Misfit moments, Nicole?
I've only got two. The only thing that drove me nuts is that Laura's height changes through the whole thing. Oh. She's like, how tall is she? She looks like a midget at one point, and then at one point she's up the same height as Jericho almost. And that kind of threw me off a little bit. I'm like, because I couldn't figure out how old is she supposed to be. Well, she's probably in junior high, but then she I don't know. She's got mystical powers that changes her size. and then when in the one song, I forgot what song it was. But
Nightmare.
Yeah, that creepy sun. So wrong. That hot pink sun with the eyeball.
She was on drugs.
That was. I felt like I was on drugs watching that. I'm like, whoa, that was a little freaky. Yeah, so those are my two Misfit moments. Like Aimee said, it's a pretty solid episode. So.
All right, Aimee, what are you going to rate this one?
I'm going to give it a 4.5. I mean, the only reason why I haven't given it a 5 is because, like, nothing's perfect. So it falls in line with the same one before that I talked about that I really, really liked. That the Roger Slifer one that was about the family, all the family issues and stuff like that. Father's Day, yeah.
Yep.
It deals with a really serious subject without giving it a safe environment for a young audience member to kind of see a little bit about how this can be dangerous, and then also a great talking point with, like I said, for parents to talk with their kids about drugs. And like I said, it's relevant. It's today. It's even relevant for today. Even being an 80s show, I would be absolutely appropriate to show it to anybody. I think it'd be relevant even today. So
absolutely. Yeah. Nicole?
I'm giving it a 5. Like I said, I was stretching it with my 2 misfit moments. You know? So, again, no Rio. Woo! Rio would have ruined this, man.
There's barely little holograms and no misfits. Yeah. So, hey.
No, like you said, it's a pretty solid episode. It's one of those episodes where you actually have to take a breather after watching. You're just like,
yeah,
that was deep, you know? Yeah, and it's like
exhale and let all the smoke out of your head.
Yeah. So I mean, exactly. I see what you did though. Okay. Yeah, like I said, the only really thing that I really was concerned about was the height change. Besides that, it was a good, solidish episode. What about you?
No Rio, no misfits. All I can think of is Rio and Roxy are off rumbling somewhere.
Nice. Just kicking the shit out of them.
I'm going to give it a 4. I like it. I think it's interesting. My little comment about the whole even in, junior high, there were plenty of teachers, hall monitors, even in the 80s. I remember certain things from, my parents and whatever else. So there were people in schools. There are teachers because, this is supposed to be a high school and it's not just one teacher for, we can't all be Miss Bliss or Mr. Belding for crap's sake. I mean, you can't just have one teacher for every single subject. So I really do think that there would be at least 3 or 4 or 5 different teachers walking the halls as they're going through this. And I think Bobby would have been caught at school if that had happened in this episode. So I'm going to give it a 4. All right.
I disagree. I don't remember there being that much teacher supervision when I was in school, but
Me neither. But I was in a small town.
I got in trouble, I was in a small town
my parents found out about it before I got home, so it's like great.
Yeah, I don't know, because I guess it just depends on how big the school is, because if they're having been the object of a lot of people's ire in high school. And people getting away with stuff all the time. I can see how slipping through the cracks would be really easy. And, who knows? Maybe he has gophers too that are helping him out for a cut.
Sorry. All I can think of is the goofy gophers now. All right, let's get to KJEM after this. All right, it is time to go to KJEM. The air date was October 29th, 1987. A group of college students, including a high school friend of Kimber's, asked Jem to help a struggling radio station that they intern at the larger rival station wants to buy out and get rid of. The featured songs are mostly reuses. When It's Only Me and the Music, Listen Up by the Misfits is new, KJEM by Jem and the Holograms is new.
You can also
I like
hear
this
music
one.
In the background as well.
Mhm.
Other songs that they've played.
Yeah.
Because it's a radio station.
Yeah. I really do like this one. I've always, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be in radio. Yes, I know there's no money in it, but I don't care. It's just the whole prestige of being...
It's kind of doing what you love kind of thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously I am doing it now with podcasting. It's just a different form.
Yeah.
So, but it's one of those things, and it doesn't really surprise me, but it's interesting to see how they shine a light on how many shady dealings radio station management will do to get a one-up on the market. I really dug this episode. I think it might be one of the best episodes of season 2.
It's a pretty good episode. I was pretty happy with it too. It was kind of sad because at the very beginning, Dance is taking over Aja's exercising role, and I was like, "What, Aja? You need to get in there before this woman takes over."
She's in the morning of her boyfriend who couldn't keep up after 5 miles.
No. Yeah.
Wow. Any other thoughts on the plot, Aimee?
No, I thought it was really good. It's one of those things where it's like, oh, I know that they already had like they have a music station, whatever that, Starlight Music, but to have an actual radio station, and I like the fact that when they actually do get around to taking on the radio station, it's more of a partnership thing rather than a takeover. They're fully. Because they first turn him down, and then Jerrica / Jem changes her mind, and it's basically because she's not necessarily wanting to take on the role, but giving them a chance to get themselves out on their own. And I thought that was really responsible. And I thought, oh, okay, I really like this episode because of that. It was just like, hey, no, we're not going to do that. Sorry. And then they turn around and change their mind because of reasons. And I like that. It had a good feel to it because it was like, hey, let's give back. We're not going to take it away from you, but we're definitely not going to let it go under either. Mm-hmm. And I swear, when I watched this morning, and I thought, okay, I thought it was Eric that was the anonymous dude. Because I thought, oh, he is evolving. Eric is now an anonymous buyer. No, it wasn't him. It was somebody else. But
no,
but
Eric would not be that coy to hide his, because he would just go in and say, "Oh, here's the contract. You got to sign around."
Yeah.
I mean, in any other episode, it would have been Eric or Zipper or one of his
some other flunky. Yeah.
Not the only one it couldn't be is Tech Rat. Yeah. And I'm really surprised that Eric didn't try to I'm really surprised honestly that Tech Rat was not behind.
Oh yeah, when they were
That's true.
The technical aspects.
That was Mr. Lassiter. Mr. Lassiter's flunky that was that.
Yeah, we need more Tech Rat.
Yeah.
Or maybe he got the device from Tech Rat. There you go.
Nicole, thoughts on the plot?
This was one of those fun episodes. It was like the breather after what we just watched.
You think? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I've always loved doing radio. I guess that's why I like doing podcasting. It was just one of those. Bringing back the times when radio was the big thing where you'd sit and wait for your favorite song to play so you could hit record. Hopefully you get the song, So, no, it was a really just a fun episode. Good little jaunt. Except for there's Rio.
Oh, stop. Oh, stop.
No.
All right, we're going to get to the hologram moments after this.
That's our signal. Hit it! Listen up, tune me in. Now's when the real good times begin. Listen up, listen good. There's a brand new girl in the neighborhood. I'm taking over. Read it loud and clear. I'm taking over. It's the end of your career. Listen up, get it straight. There ain't no point in taking faith. Listen up, you take heed. There's no way I'm letting you succeed. I'm taking over. Read me loud and clear. I'm taking over. It's the end of your career. Do you read me loud and clear? It's the end of your career. Do you read me loud and clear? What is this? What's happening?
All right, it is time for hologram moments for KJEM. Rio the pilot. Oh noes, I can just hear Nicole salivating with her hatred.
If he become a private pilot.
Okay, that's gonna be my misfit moment. I'm not gonna get started yet. Okay.
All right, we'll save it.
Ugh.
Hey, listen, the redhead guy is voiced by Rob Paulsen, and also he voices another of the other secondary characters. I have seen and heard Rob's voice so many times over the last 20, 30 years that I know when Rob Paulsen is in a cartoon. He's the guy that tells the shenanigans guy to get out, and he slams the door on him.
No.
So I noticed that. It was interesting where the signal was coming from. I thought that was a little ingenious and I like how they brought the FCC in to try to track it. I thought that was awesome. And again, we see Eric being the good guy. He had no idea of the deal that they had made.
I don't know if that makes him a good guy, though. He was just kind of like, I'm not involved.
Well, I'm saying, like, in this episode, he wanted to, once Jerica believed him, they went together to go find it and stop it. Granted, you don't see much of him after that, but it's one of those things where he didn't know.
He was used.
Yeah, pretty much. He was used and the Misfits were used, like day old hookers that they are.
Oh.
Hologram moments, Aimee?
Just off that vein, Eric could learn a few things from Mr. Lassiter. Just saying.
Oh,
Just saying.
Yeah.
He got taken advantage of by this guy. Well, his flunky at least. And finally, you said the Misfits are, what they are. It's like finally they get to end. They end up staying in jail for an evening. There you go.
I know.
It's like, oh, poor Misfits. They really had no idea, but
yeah, I actually felt sorry for them.
I felt bad for them too because I thought, oh yeah, they're getting arrested because they were there. That was the wrong place at the wrong time. Yeah. I did like the fact that it's always good to have a new creep. It's not always Eric that's the bad guy. So that was my first impression at first. I was like, oh, the anonymous buyer is going to be Eric, and then it wasn't. I was like, oh, okay, good.
I thought that too.
Good.
I have that.
I was all right with that. So yep, that's me. I don't really have a lot of hologram moments in this one. I have more misfit moments though.
Oh no!
Oh no! Yeah.
I guarantee you, half of them have to do with Rio.
At least one of them do.
Yeah. Nicole, hologram moments for this one?
I like that Eric Raymond did get a night off from the Misfits. Poor guy, you know. Okay, the mention of Princess Diana and Charles kind of threw me back. I'm like, oh my gosh, she was alive and married at the time. You know.
Oh, this is so wrong.
No, but it's true because to me, Princess Di's been gone for a long time.
Yeah.
I think it
forever.
I know. So
10 years before she died.
I know. So it kind of threw me back. I'm like, whoa, talking about Princess Di. You know, that kind of threw me back. I liked how the goons made fun of Rio. Yay. Eric's reaction to Jerica believing him was priceless. He's like, really?
Really? You believe me? He's like, I would believe me.
No, that was awesome. And yeah, those are my hologram moments.
Alrighty then, let's get to the Misfit moments after this. Yes, we know you're a mutant. All right, it's time for... Yes, we know you're a mutant. All right, it is time for Misfit Moments for KJEM. What do you got, Nicole?
Misfit Moments. Let's see.
The top one has got to be Rio.
Okay. Let's get on to this.
Represent. One. Come on, represent. Rio. It's got to be Rio.
Rio gets his pilot license. All of a sudden, he is like a stunt driver for the plane. What the hell? If he had his pilot's license, he'd still have to get, probably be supervised and everything. And they're just giving him the reins. This guy can't even drive, letting him fly.
Hey, even Jerica's like, oh no, we gotta stop him. I was like, yeah, because she knows that this is crazy. Exactly. The other thing is that Rio and Jem, again, it's like,
I know. It's
what
just
is
like
Jerica, old news?
Well, because, was it this episode? Oh, yeah, because they're like, next episode. We'll get to that. That's in my other, okay, anyways, no, I just, they've got to make up their mind, unless, they don't mind being in a three-way, and then, we'll get off of Rio. We all know how I feel about him. He could, crash that plane for all I care, and you know what? Rio, do us all a favor and do an Amelia error. Just take off into sunset and never come back. There we go.
You are so cruel.
I know. I really shouldn't compare Amelia Earhart to Rio. I apologize.
I really wonder if every time we sit down to do one of these sessions, I really wonder if you're sitting there with your white wig on.
No, not.
Liar. All right. What do you got?
I did it once, and I'm not living it down.
Sure.
Okay, and the other thing I had, and all the promotional videos and stuff of KJEM, Rhea was never featured. Rhea was hardly in it. I'm just like, she's there in the show. But when they did all the promotional videos, it was just the original 3 holograms and not Rhea. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, they
what's
gave
up
Dance
with
a
that?
whole segment.
Yeah,
Why not
I'm
Rhea?
just like, what's up with that, man?
Might have been an animation thing.
I know,
They
but
may-
it still ticks me off. I like Rhea. Her dad's got a greenhouse and cool orchids, man. No, I really felt bad because like they were doing the KJEM promotions and they're all dancing on the KJEM sign, and Rhea's not there. Wait, maybe Rhea has. Wait, is this a drummer that has no rhythm? Is that why she wasn't able to dance? Oh man. Oh wow. Okay.
Is that even possible? I mean, for a drummer to have no rhythm, because like you'd have to have rhythm so you could. Anyhow, yeah, that just like breaks your brain when you think about it.
As much as I love Ringo Starr, he's an awesome drummer. The guy can't dance. Sorry. All right. There's my misfit moments.
Amy?
Well, I did have Rio on here because the whole Gemma Rio thing. I was like, oh, you want to see my plane? She's like, oh, yeah, sure. And I was going, really? Rio?
And how
Jerica
does he
should
afford a
slap your
plane?
face. Yeah.
What drugs is he dealing, man?
Oh, God. I honestly think that Jem/Jerica, I think Jerica gets so caught up in the moment of being the alternate personality that she doesn't realize what she's doing. Like, she thinks that it's her in the moment with Rio.
But he wouldn't know that.
I know he wouldn't know that. But...
He just likes having 2 women.
I don't know. You'd think
Can't
that
go there.
yeah. It's like he's going out of his way to get, attention from Jem now. It's just like, it's confusing. The poor guy. Just let him know already, because then it wouldn't be an issue anymore. Poor guy just needs to know. Anyhow, the crashing the concert with the electrical cords under a parachute. Come on, really? They would have been injured by that. Somebody would have electrocuted.
Yeah. Should we mention that? Kimber falling in love again.
That was my next thing, and then Kimber and Switch having a connection right away. So when they finally pulled the parachute up, they're just sitting there making oogly googly eyes at each other, going.
I even took that from my mind until you mentioned that. I'm like, oh, Kimber.
Yeah.
Boy, crazy.
Yeah. It was cheesy, but I was like,
so
it makes sense.
Let's see. Kimber the whore has Jeff, Sean, and now Switch.
Yep.
She can
She's
switch
got a
between
whole
all
bunch
three.
of other people too. I mean,
Yeah.
she's not the only one. Old high school fling. There you go. She's been like this since high school. All the broken hearts left in her wake. Yeah, Mr. Lassiter's flunky, you should have known from the get-go. Do not get, mixed up with Raymond and the Misfits. You will go down, boy, because they have a bad track record already as it is. Yeah. Thought it was odd that the Misfits wouldn't feel the movement of the plane.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How would they not know that? I mean, if anything, they'd suspect that they're in a driving or doing something, but yeah, yeah.
Well, the other thing is that's a soundproof booth, and unless the switch was on,
yeah, but how did they get into that room then?
Yeah, that's true.
They would have had to go on a plane unless they. I just don't see that they would go to an airport and say, "Oh, we're gonna take you into this special room. It's gonna go down this long tube."
Well, I don't know.
Long hallway.
Pizzazz has been pretty gullible in the past.
How would you not know? They
I know.
blindfolded them. That's the part. We're taking you to the secret lair. Don't mind all of those noises of planes in the background. Of course, they could have gone to a private. The fact that they didn't show, I just don't know how in the world that could possibly be happening. But whatever. It still made for a nice little gotcha moment. It was like, hey, we can't figure out where they're at. Yeah, that's because they're on a plane.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's me.
For me, I just kind of sat back and watched and enjoyed this episode because of how heavy the previous two were. I mean, I agree with everything you guys are saying about how bad it is. I still love it because of the whole radio station thing. So I really don't have any misfit moments for this one. Aimee, what are you going to rate this one?
I'm going between a 3.5 and a 4, and I'm like going, which one am I going to do? I don't know. It wasn't a bad episode. It was fun. It's just like some of those things that happened in the misfit moments. I'm just kind of, I don't know if I can really buy. I'm going to go with 3.5.
Nicole?
I'm going with a 3. I thought it was a fun episode. It had its moments. Yeah, it was kind of crazy, but it was just one of those episodes you just sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Even if the Rio's involved.
It just blank it out of your mind.
5 hands down. I know there are several issues with the episode, but I still really, really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it.
Yeah.
Not that I didn't enjoy the previous 2 episodes, but that was some really, between drug use and, what was the other
illiteracy.
one?
Illiteracy.
And illiteracy, those are some pretty heavy issues. So having this and not really having to, deal with a lot of heavy issues, it was really, really good.
It was Change the World month. They
Yeah, it was. All right, we're going to take a quick break. You're going to hear some ads and some other stuff, and we'll be back with final thoughts and how we think the series has done so far after this.
Jem will be right back after these messages. Mr. Cow.
Yes?
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I don't know. I always end up biting. Ask Mr. Fox, for he's much cleverer than I.
Mr. Fox, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
Why don't you ask Mr. Turtle, for he's been around a lot longer than I. Me, I bite.
Mr. Turtle, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
I never made it without biting. Ask Mr. Owl, for he is the wisest of us all.
Mr. Owl, how many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop?
A good question. Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
If there's anything I can't stand, it's a smart owl.
How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? The world may never know.
Hey, I'm Gary.
I'm Mike.
I'm Chuck.
And I'm Justin. Join the 4 of us every week on the internet's #1 and longest-running G.I. Joe podcast, What's on Joe Mind?
It's Joe news, reviews, and interviews like you've never heard them before, delivered right to your MP3 player.
Our guests include Jason Marsden, Kevin Michael Richardson, and Matt Yang King from G.I. Joe Renegades, Larry Hama, Robert Adkins, and John Barber from IDW Publishing, and many more from around the online Joe community.
Yeah, it's guys talking about Joe. Think of it as Joe Talk meets sports talk. And we make fun of Chuck.
Right, and we... Hey, again? Come on, Chuck. We're just kidding, kinda.
Sometimes Chuck makes fun of himself.
Right, and we... Okay, seriously, this is just getting ridiculous now.
It's What's on Joe Mind, every week on the GeekCast Radio Network, InsidePulse.com, Stitcher Smart Radio, and iTunes. Download and listen today.
I suppose I still can't say something about Transformers, can I?
Come
Good.
on, man.
No.
What about sports?
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's all right.
Soundwave, jam that transmission! Rumble Frenzy, Ravage Rat-Bat, Eject, Operation Interference.
No, there will be no Operation Interference. I am TFG1Mike, and you should be listening to my very first podcast, the TFG1 Podcast. 24 episodes covering the entire U.S. run of the 1984 Transformers cartoon. I also have a few supplemental episodes and an interview with Stan Bush. I bring in guest hosts who will be full-time co-hosts in Steve Megatron and fan of the show, now co-host Pecan Court Michael. So check out the TFG1 podcast. You can find it on iTunes and the web at www.geekcastradio.com. Transform and roll out.
By the power of Grayskull, I command the Jawbridge. Open!
The Powers of Grayskull series will cover every episode of all 4 Masters of the Universe cartoons. Join Optimus Solo and myself, TFG1Mike, as we tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, and finally Masters of Grayskull. We'll have a commentary on the Secret of the Sword film and a few other special episodes. You can find this 125-episode-long podcast in iTunes and on the web at geekcastradio.com. By the power and honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying,
And now, back to Gem.
Alright, we are back here on ShowTime Synergy. Aimee, overall thoughts on where the season and the series has come to this point?
I'm really liking Season 2, much better than Season 1. I mean, it just seems like I'm enjoying more of what's going on. We're not having the themed episodes that are, kind of feeling a little fun, but yet, kind of like, wonky. But we've had some pretty, they've hit some pretty epic subject topics in Season 2 that they didn't in Season 1. So that kind of has added to my enjoyment, I think, because it's given it a level that it didn't previously have. I'm really liking it. Yeah.
Nicole, what about you?
For Season 2?
For just, and overall.
I'm like Aimee said, I'm really enjoying Season 2. It's really hitting it out of the park. I think adding the new characters with Rhea and Jeddah has helped. I don't remember back in the day liking Jeddah, but watching it this time around, I kind of like her. She's a bitch. I'll just say it. She adds that tension. Her and Roxy, I love that tension.
It's a good dynamic. I really like it.
It is. I'm liking it, and I am also liking the adding of the new Starlight Girl. I mean, they're getting to more serious subjects, and they're different. They're like everyday kind of issues, which some people can relate to. I'm sorry, I don't remember the last time where I had to go to Italy for a fashion show. But yeah, I'm really liking this season. And there's a lot less Rio. Yeah, just saying it.
I like where the series is going overall. I like that they're, doing these more in-depth, not necessarily controversial, but, hard-hitting stories with, Roxy Rumble and All Alone Again. Some pretty hard-hitting issues with drugs and illiteracy and all that other stuff. And I'm loving with the new characters. I kind of wish we would get a little bit more of Jeddah. We haven't really, other than when they found her in the club and the fact that she's from England, we haven't really gotten much. Well, yeah, but they're all liars. I mean,
in certain ways, yeah. It's funny because we've talked about this. It was we can't wait to get Stormer's background. We got Stormer's background. Now we can't wait to get Roxy's, and we kind of build up to that. Now it's Jeddah. It's we will get a background for her as well. So it's kind of it's just we're at that moment. We're asking for the next. We're asking the right questions to get the next thing.
And luckily, to this point, they haven't disappointed us. To this point, as far as giving us what we want, unlike other 80s properties.
The only thing they haven't given us what we wanted is the fact that Rio still does not know about Gemma Jerica.
Well, they're never going to give us that.
Yeah, I know.
Doesn't it happen the very, very last episode?
No,
it doesn't.
It
doesn't?
Very,
very last.
Left it
very
hanging.
last episode. Yep. Very last episode doesn't even mention it.
Really? That's what I remember. Maybe that was just hopeful when I was younger.
Yeah, Aimee and I will rip that hope right out from under your rug because it doesn't
spoil
happen.
it for you.
Yeah.
Dang.
I know. Doesn't that just bite it?
So what's his purpose then? Besides to annoy me.
Exactly. He's just there for that reason.
Yeah.
Just for you, Nicole, because we love
Exactly.
you so much.
I know.
Because his alter ego is Cyclonus.
No, he's not. I'm going to kill you. Really. You must think so. I have thrown people in walls. I will not hesitate to throw you into there.
Just saying that, we might have time traveled back in time and told them that they could not take that out. Behind your back, Nicole, we have scrambled the original continuity of the reality to make sure that Rio would stay in this and that he would never really know.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us here on ShowTime Synergy. There are several ways to get in contact with us and leave feedback for the show. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can comment on this and all of our other episode posts. Leave the show feedback in iTunes. Please do this. Follow us on Twitter. You can follow at GeekCastRadio for all the other network updates. Mine is TFG1Mike. Aimee, what is your Twitter?
LadyWreck.
And
Nicole?
That's Beatles Diva. Beatles like the band, not the bug.
Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/GeekCast Radio Network. We hope you enjoyed the latest episode of ShowTime Synergy and wish you'll join us next time. And we'll be reviewing the next 3 episodes of Gem and the Holograms Season 2, those being Trick or Tech Rat. Presidential Dilemma. I didn't know.
Shoulder pads.
We should have just called that one shoulder pads, yeah.
They should have.
And the Rock and Roll Express. For now, I am M with...
Your multiple personality podcaster.
And...
The crap talking Nicole. Woo!
Woohoo! Aloha.
It's not time yet, damn it. Tune in next time and help us get truly outrageous with Showtime Synergy.
Aloha.
Bad timing.
Well,
Woohoo, there you go.
Show's over, Synergy. Me and my friends are jam girls.